Hello. Yes. Thank you, Gayatri. Um, you want me to start, or would you like to introduce other panel members and then we go ahead? Okay. Uh, Fine. So let me put my video on, and let me also share the presentation. Uh, so I don't have a right to share my screen. Gayatri, if you can help me. Yeah. Um, no, I think the share button is not active, so I'm unable to share. Um, okay, can I do one thing? If I can share the presentation, and if you can screen share on your behalf, on my behalf, will that work? Okay, give me a moment. Ah, wait, now it's working. Okay, I can do that. Give me a moment. Is it working now? Okay, great. So, oh, it's full screen already on at my end. It's on a presentation mode, so I don't know. You're unable to see the full screen. Wait. Let me try once again. Okay. Is it better now? Is it full screen now? Is it full screen now, Gayatri? Okay, then uh, wait. One more try, and if it doesn't work, then I'll have to seek your support. Okay. Is it coming full screen now? Okay. Okay, great. So, once again, good afternoon to all the participants here. I think today is a day which we mark. Actually, it was yesterday, but being a Sunday, we are meeting today, where we come together, reaffirm our commitment to menstrual hygiene. So it's again not just a one day event; it's about every day. So the day was more to strengthen our resolve, and here we are today doing talk on period friendly toilets, and I had a thought that we expand that and we make it gender friendly toilets in schools. So Gayatri has already given a bit of a brief background about my work. I currently work with UNICEF Rajasthan office as the wash specialist. We now have also expanded our work beyond water sanitation and hygiene. We also now work in the area of climate change and environmental sustainability. What I'm going to do is through few slides just to share a journey that we've taken, our own dip dives in with regard to gender friendly toilets, particularly in institutions. And here we are looking at schools where there are majority of girls who attend school. So uh, if we look at its importance, okay, even before I begin, let me give you a bit of a journey of how we got initiated as UNICEF. So UNICEF has a very long standing journey working on wash in institutions and particularly in schools. And if we look at the journey of toilets in particular, again, it has been a long journey that government has taken. So if we look at the first generation of toilets that were built, which were initiated way back in 1995, where there was a felt need to have a toilet facility. And these toilets were supposed to be general toilet, which means that there was a single unit which had one toilet, and on both sides were urinals, open urinals, as in one for boys and one for girls. And this was it in all the schools, rural schools across India. This was something which was very common. Of course, funding was an issue that time. The total funding that was available per toilet was about 20,000 rupees. Gradually, it increased to 35,000 rupees. And then currently, a toilet in a school premise, this varies from state to state, but it is anywhere around 200,000 to 300,000 rupees, which is a covered toilet with water facility. So there has been shifts that have happened, but one of the major shift that took place was in year 2014 2015, when the first time there was a discussion about having gender segregated toilet for boys and girls. So just having one toilet for boys and girls is not enough. There are various reasons to it, the uptake, the toilet not being used, how to make it more friendly. So the big movement happened under Swachh Bharat Swachh Vidyalaya program, but of course it built on a lot of work that happened over a period of time in schools. And as a part of this journey of government, UNICEF has progressively worked to make sure that the toilets are child friendly, are gender sensitive, are geoclimate responsive, different parameters and different lenses that was used through some pilots. In some cases we failed, in some cases we learned some lessons, in some cases we also tried to consolidate that journey and take it forward to have wider application and scale up through the government mechanism. So between 1995 and 2023, as of today, a lot of changes have happened in terms of design, in terms of having access to toilets, functionality, operation, and maintenance, which will come in subsequent slides. So this is, I think, a journey where how do we now move forward from this point? How do we make sure that this is more as a right for every child, be it boy or girl, to access toilets. In fact, now there is also a third dimension that we're adding, that not just boys and girls, but it should be accessible to all gender, and including someone who would not be comfortable defining in a particular gender type. So we move to the importance. I'm not getting into details of all of this, but because we all who have gathered here are aware about the importance of toilets, particularly during a time when a girl or an adolescent girl is going through her menstrual periods. So it's an important space which can be used for a better menstrual hygiene management, which allows girls, also women teachers, to change their menstrual product, clean themselves, maintain their personal hygiene. It's also a space which provides privacy and dignity. And this is where we had done a gender immersion visit way back in 2018, where we realized in a very remote schools, which we had purposely selected in bordering Badmer district, bordering the international border. And we found a range of issues that came up. We had separate discussions with boys, with girls, with teachers, with women teachers. And one of the things that came out very strongly was the whole issue of privacy and dignity, the whole issue of girls feeling comfortable to go and access menstrual products from a male teacher, or a no teachers who are not women teachers. So this, I think, also led to girls either taking a prolonged break in their academic schools, or they may not want to use school facility because the toilet is either not functional or not conducive for during certain days. So they would rather prefer going back to their home or to their friend's place, or they may not attend school at all. And then also the placement of toilets. Sometimes, you have two separate toilets for boys and girls, but they are placed in such a way that a girl may not feel comfortable, may not find the privacy, and where, they might be subjected to ill treatment. So I think that was another important learning during our gender immersion visit. Uh, there is a very strong correlation between girls who are missing their schools during periods. Also, particularly states like Rajasthan, where you have very strong gender norms. Girls leaving school after a certain age, and then they don't continue their education, and then there is this whole cycle where they then end up getting into early child marriage and a range of issues. So this is one of the areas where, by providing either period friendly, and I would rather put it at a broader term as gender friendly toilets for across all use, all time, uh, ensure that girls are able to access toilets when they need, without any issue, without any no um, any concern. And this has a direct correlation with attendance and education, learning outcomes. Um, it also provides in certain way an equal treatment. So if you need, like, the typical design that I was mentioning way back in 1995, it continued until 2000, and it continues even to date when we go to rural schools. Large majority of schools have those old infrastructure where you find urinals which are open design urinals, and which does impact its use. And there is also this whole issue of, again, this privacy, dignity, and then the needs are not met. So how do you do it? We need to ensure that there are certain changes that are made in the design itself, right from designing stage, or if they're already built and you cannot have new infrastructure, how do you retrofit the existing infrastructure? It also promotes health and well-being, because if there are inadequate facilities, it is going to lead to unhygienic practices and then further complications of infection and health-related complications. And finally, it also breaks taboo to discuss issues like menstrual hygiene. Particularly, it becomes breaking the silence around this issue. So there is a better awareness. It's a core relation with the kind of learning that they do, but that they don't imbibe inside. So, it, and subsequently, it leads to empowered adolescent groups, girls group, and then becoming more empowered when they step out of schooling. So that again is an important aspect that we need to look at. um, there are some statistics which are very no glaring. So how many girls, actually about 12 crore, 120 million girls go to school, and of which 60 million or 6 crore are studying in upper primary or higher school. That itself shows the kind of number that we are targeting. And if you look at Rajasthan, the state where I work, about 8 million girls are studying in school, and of which 4 million are studying in upper primary or higher grades, which is an age group where they would be going through menstrual cycle. And though there are now, again, when we see toilets, as per 2015 announcement, all state government had put in an affidavit to the Supreme Court that their schools have 100% toilets, gender segregated toilets, Currently, if we look at the data, it still shows at 95%. But if we go further below, so if we look at UDIS data, if we look at ASER data, what we get to know is that having a toilet is not enough. Is it a functional toilet? If it is a functional toilet, is it being used? So there are instances where even if a toilet is functional but it is not being used, then one has to understand what are the causalities of toilets not being used. So this number, while it indicates a very high coverage, in reality, as one would go to see on ground, would be starkly different. And as you would go away from the state capital and maybe towards the border area, the situation might be more glaring. There could be many or various reasons. One could be non-availability of water, one could be poor functionality, one could be misuse of toilet, as in toilets are used but then also abused in certain ways. There could be placement of toilet which is not, there could be design flaw, there could be many reasons, no which lack of fund, no for ensuring its upkeep and cleaning. So there are various causalities to it. We will come into it during our discussion points. So when we did this gender study, and subsequently we had a pilot which we piloted in Badmer and Dungarpur, 10 schools, where we learned a lot of things, from those 10 schools. And some of the elements that were key to making those toilets gender friendly was ensuring, first and foremost, proper sanitation. So when I say sanitation, it also includes access to water, pipe water, cleaning products, also having the right kind of technologies being used. And this is where I think the engineering team of education department comes to play. But as we know, many a times towards the last mile, it might be a contractor or a local team which would be doing it, and they might miss some finer nuances. Privacy aspect is again very important. So it's placement. So when it is being designed, are we involving all key stakeholders as to where to place a toilet? By and large, our understanding is one of the remotest corner where nothing could come up, not a single classroom, is where, or it would be undulated, where access is an issue. If we add a layer to it, I mean, if we add disability as a layer, that no child with disability or different able child will never be able to use it. Even if a child is not disabled, um, there could be issue of safety. So younger children might not feel very safe, or even no adults and girls may feel privacy as an issue. So this is again a design element that one has to factor in. Clean water, I've already mentioned, as a part of sanitation, but they go hand in hand. How do you have disposal facilities? So if you have a menstrual waste, do they have incinerators? Is it working? Many schools, we have seen that there are incinerators because they are installed in bulk across the state or across the district, but then they're not functioning. So what are the causalities? Why is it not functioning? In Rajasthan, we have a this big program led by the chief minister called Udan. It's a scheme which provides free sanitary pads to adults and girls, all reproductive age groups, so right from 10 to 49 age across the state. So now access of sanitary pads is not an issue. Even before, it was being supplied through the health department. Currently, it's also being supplied through the health department. However, there could be issue of quality, periodicity. There could be issue of gap in supply. Uh, but then there are, of course, alternates too. So that is another aspect that one needs to look into. That is it easily accessible? If it's available, does a girl have to go and get it from, let's say, a single teacher school where you only have a male teacher, and are you comfortable going and getting it? uh, so supply chain could also be an issue, and there could also be a behavioral aspect to it. Adequate lighting and ventilation play an extremely important role in design, because it ensures that the toilet is toilet facility. This is again gender neutral. It applies to both girl toilet and a boy toilet for boys. But then it's an important design aspect. The material in terms of do's and don'ts, the basic awareness about issues, these are also issues which are not generally talked very openly. So that's an area where we need to break taboo. So we need to also ensure that a regular IC material is available. Then access, it can be access to the toilet, access to the material, but here we are talking about access to the toilet. So that is something we will have to also factor in. I just mentioned about where it is placed. What is a disposal mechanism? So waste management system becomes extremely important. Is it the incinerator being used, or is it a dip burial which is there, or is it a system where along with the medical waste, is there a way? This would vary from place to place, but this also needs to be looked into. And then of course the operation and maintenance, which is the make or break kind of a thing. So you might have an infrastructure, but if it doesn't have a maintenance, it could lead to an issue. So these are some of the pillars that we need to factor in. Now, coming to some of the key benefits of having gender friendly toilets, we did talk about the learning outcomes, the academic performance, increased attendance. There's an enhanced dignity, better health and hygiene, of course, and then it creates a positive learning environment both for boys and girls. It then creates an environment where we are expanding this dialogue beyond girls. We are also bringing in boys in the discussion. There is also an empowerment and confidence which comes alongside, and this is something that one would have seen, and particularly in I'm referring to the strata which is socioeconomically requiring more support. So naturally this also kind of adds to their empowerment and confidence. And finally, what I just mentioned about breaking menstrual stigma between all, it should be a natural process which anyone can talk. And this is, again, there's a long way to go, but there is definitely a very positive change. And I do believe that days like Menstrual Hygiene Day at least helps us strengthen our resolve. And this is one of the platforms. No, Gayatri had sent in a request couple of days ago, but then I wasn't sure about my schedule. But I thought it's important and it needs time and attention. So that's why we are here together. Coming to now few design options. Again, I'm taking this from our pilot that we had carried out between 2019 and 2022 in Badmer and Dungarpur. So this is actually from those 10 schools where what was the existing designs and what changes did we make. So there are certain elements that I don't know whether you are able to see the arrow. I'm not sure whether you'll be able to see the arrow mark, but nevertheless, so one was of course the toilet which was there in the existing unit did not have enough space for changing of clothes. um, and then the urinals were open from above, so there were issues of privacy, dignity. Now here in this design, it's a mixed design, again the old design where you have um, boys and girls toilet just apart by a single wall. So this also created challenge of using the toilet. So you could see that some elements have been fixed. For example, a ramp which is a part of the children with special need design has been done, but then the gender aspects have been amiss. So we worked around this. We did a recast, and it was just to create a buzz that we can change through some design innovations. So this is how it looks like as of now. Let me also tell you what did we learn out of this. So this doesn't come easy, especially what we see on a document and what you really see on ground. There is a sea difference. The reason is to execute at the last mile, resources is one of the major constraints. What you see in design, and when you execute, you have to rely on the local team. But then of course, a team which understands, whose capacities have been built, are able to deliver much better as well. So what did we do? And then the third element is the costing part. So we had certain cost in mind, but we had to escalate the cost keeping some of the local factors in mind. So what did we do? We converted this entire unit into a girls unit, and boys unit was shifted elsewhere, so we got double space. We converted certain open urinals into closed urinals, so it provides that privacy element. We converted this toilet in such a way that there was a change room and a wash basin and a mirror and incinerator, which made sure that this all gender friendly elements are put together. So it is also period friendly, and it is also gender friendly. So and of course the ventilation part, and then there was certain space was a constraint. So how do you do this doors? So they were also separated in such a way that you use minimal space. So there were two uh, door units, which door frames, which were used instead of one. Also, the school had a co-located Anganwadi. This is from Dungarpur. This is a school called Good Maudi, which has also received many awards like Swachh Vidyalaya Puraskar, and also this is an enhanced design. So this unit also had children studying in Anganwadi, the co-located one. So one of the doors was designed in such a way that the two frames were put in such a way that if the upper flap is removed, so the privacy of a small child, from 3 to 6 years, is taken care of. There's enough light and ventilation, the caretaker can also go in. So it is beyond gender friendly. We had also factored in elements of child friendly, and then there were certain elements which were brought in, which brought in this whole element of how can we make it geoclimate responsive, the climate responsiveness. Hygiene was an important aspect. So how do we factor in hand hygiene alongside personal hygiene? So how were the hand wash stations put, and what was the wastewater that came out was used for greening of that unit? And it also kind of provided a barrier. So there was no direct, unlike the earlier unit. If you look at the earlier unit, they did not have any no barrier. Here it provided a barrier, a natural green barrier or a green wall. So I think this is a very, very broad overview of the work that has been done, and why it is very, very important to have gender friendly toilets. I think I've taken much longer than I was expected to take, but I hope it was useful. And over to you, Gayatri. You're on mute, Gayatri. Yeah. So this is where I think there's a need to have basket of options. So if you look at the earlier generation toilets, there used to be something called as matka incinerator, which is very, very rudimentary, and you would even today see in many of the schools. But then incineration itself, there are a lot of questions in terms of at what temperature you need to incinerate, because otherwise it leads to harmful gases that gets emitted, because sanitary pad also has a plastic lining, and it can lead to, so where is the exhaust kept, at what height, and then how do you do it, because there are a lot of practical issues in terms of there is a minimum load of pads that has to be incinerated. So no, if one looks at a very remote school, which in a low resource scenario where you do not have enough resources, you look at aspects of how do you have a safe disposal. So even a deep burial pit is a good way to begin with. It doesn't require any further intervention. It is something which is even used in district hospitals and all for sharp objects. So that could be one way of looking at it. And then of course it will decompose with time. But then if you're using incinerator and if electricity is not ensured, then there has to be option, because this is what we have seen in some of the schools in Rajasthan, where no, maybe by a government order, many schools have incinerators, but then due to remote area, no, the electricity supply is not there, so it is not used. It is as good as a unit which has been installed and not used. So there, I think, what are some of the options? Another thing that we need to also look at, despite government promoting sanitary pads as an option, a basket of options. So now there are, of course, a hygienic cloth is something that could be also an option that could be used. There are now many products available in market which are environment friendly products as well. They could be promoted and used. So even internally we have been debating as to what one should be accessing, because this also leads to environmental waste, and if it is not addressed, no, it's going to be a problem, because it will eventually be littered on the ground. And even this is an urban issue, so in urban areas this is not being handled appropriately. Even in our own neighborhood we often see this. So in a rural area, definitely a mixed model where, if in case electricity is an issue, then we need to look at alternate options to that. So I hope I've answered your question.
Yes. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your time that you have taken from your busy schedule to join us here and impart this experience with us.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So, next, I would like to welcome Ms. Shilpa Narayan. Hi, Shilpa ma'am. So Shilpa ma'am has worked for the past 20 years as a public health consultant, and she has given many trainings and awareness programs, educational programs to students and other rural youths on public health and hygiene. Thank you, ma'am. And she will here to discuss a little bit about menstrual hygiene and different aspects of this menstrual hygiene and health. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Gayatri, for this opportunity to talk on menstrual health and hygiene issues. So, a small little presentation I thought which would explain this aspect better. Shall I share the screen? Yeah. Okay. So, yeah. So, menstrual hygiene. So, according to the WHO UNICEF Joint Monitoring Program, menstrual hygiene is defined as women and adolescent girls using a clean menstrual management material to absorb or collect menstrual blood that can be changed in privacy as often as necessary, using soap and water for washing the body as required, and having access to safe and convenient facilities to dispose of used menstrual management materials. They understand the basic facts linked to the menstrual cycle and how to manage it with dignity and without discomfort or fear. Is my screen visible? Sorry, I didn't ask earlier. So I thought I'll start with the basic anatomy and physiology of menstruation, so as to give a little more clear idea of why not to have various misconceptions which exist in people's minds. So this is of course a diagram of the female uterus. So on either side of this body of the uterus are the two ovaries. So at each cycle, there are several thousands of follicles, which are the little eggs which mature, rather which develop, and then only one matures at every cycle around the 13th to 15th day. So this egg, it matures and then it bursts through this, the ovarian covering, and it comes through the fallopian tube. It starts its journey to the uterus. So during this journey into the uterus, if in the fallopian tube it is met with by a sperm, which is inserted through the female genital tract, then it is that the conception happens and then the menstrual cycle stops. But in case this does not happen, that is, the meeting with the sperm does not happen, then during this time it starts its journey here. So, as in the next slide, we see here that this is the period of ovulation that I just explained, when one single egg matures and then it starts its journey into the uterine cavity. So, if there is no conception that is happening, that is the meeting with the sperm and the development of an embryo, then there is no need for this extra lining of the endometrium or the inner lining of the uterus to remain in the body. And that is why it then is discarded in the form of the menstrual cycle. This lasts for about 3 to 7 days normally, usually 4 days. So, this is when the uterus tries to expel what it does not need, which we call as the menstrual cycle. So, then again, after all this is let out of the body, then is the follicular phase again. Follicle means the small little tiny eggs which start developing. So, these are the 4 stages. So, this entire period is that of around 28 days of a month. So, here we see that ovulation happens around the mid cycle, that is around 13th to 15th day. And this is the time that when it is met with a sperm, then conception is likely to happen. So, on other days, this is not likely to happen. And then, this, if conception does not happen, what is not needed by the body, that is this kind of mattress, let's call it, for the embryo to develop, this is discarded out of the body in the form of this blood flow. So we see that it is nothing impure. So only when it comes into contact with the external environment or oxygen, it gets a particular smell, which is a little disagreeable. So there is nothing that, but of course, if we let it remain and collect there for quite some time, then it is going to give a foul odor. So this is the basic anatomy and physiology behind menstruation. Now, once we understand this, let us also understand that if this retains here for various reasons, if the pad is not changed as much as it should be, then a kind of a bacterial flora starts developing here, which might find access upwards. So hence it is necessary to keep this area clean, the vaginal and the genital area clean. So to wash it as frequently as possible and whenever the pad is changed, which might be around 3 to 4 times a day, depending upon the quantity of menstrual blood, which may differ in each individual, and also each individual's sense of hygiene that may differ. Hence, we cannot say that these many times only the pad should be changed. Then I will shut this for now. Yeah. So we just saw that the basic anatomy and physiology behind menstruation. So talking about the kinds of pads which need to be used, of course, so it should be friendly to the skin. So there should be no rashes there, and also the material should be absorbent. So traditionally, ladies, women have been using these cloths made of cotton which have been absorbent and also drying in the sun, which is perfectly fine because sun is the best disinfectant. So we need to take into consideration that if in the rural environment, even if pads are not accessible, these days we have various materials which can be stitched in the form of cotton pads, and they can be washed and reused, drying in the sun. Of course, sometimes people find it difficult to dry. That gives a sense of stigma, and people around come to know. So all these kind of restrictions when a girl has her menstrual period. So equally important that we need to understand is that the kind of material that needs to be used needs to be skin friendly and also serving to absorb the quantity of blood that is released. So these are the two things, and of course the other thing is about hand washing whenever there is a change of pads. Keeping the genital area clean is equally important, frequent washing, but not, of course, with very use of too much of soap or Savlon or these kind of disinfectants. That is not needed. And then, of course, the management of sanitary pads. This was spoken about by Shri Himani. So a little that I would like to add in here is that I've tried this vermicomposting in my own home, and I found good results with it. So if you keep it in a, I have used these unused or rather disused water tanks that we had to fill in the vermicompost, and having put these pads in it, used pads wrapped in newspaper. After a period of a month, it's only the film of plastic, if there is, that remains inside, or nylon, the netting that remains inside, if at all there is. The rest of it decomposes completely. So these are the things that I wanted to put in. Thank you so much, Gayatri. Hmm. Yes, yes. Yeah, the conventional menstrual pads wrapped up in newspaper and put inside this. I should have had the pictures, but I didn't know that maybe I would need to talk on this. But I have done that. It's with the conventional pads, and nothing remains of it after a month's time.
Bit about the hygiene aspect of alternative menstrual products. Like there are many people who think that using a menstrual cup will cause them cancer. This is something I have heard. Then like using a menstrual cup or reusing menstrual pads, that is also there right now. Reusable menstrual pads are in market. So these will cause different diseases is something that is being talked about alternative menstrual products.
Yeah. So as I already said, that if you wash it properly and dry it in the sun, so the sun is the best disinfectant. See, let's understand that we use even various things we use for eating, like say, let's talk of papad. This is to make it dry. We dry it in the sun and use it for human consumption. So why not use a menstrual pad that is properly dried in the sun? It does not harbor any germs once it is properly dried. So that is, and we have been using it before all these alternative menstrual materials have come up. It was cloth pads that were being used for generations. And you also said about the cups causing cancer. So I don't think that is a possibility. So cancer, when does it happen? When there is some cause of irritation, prolonged irritation in an area, so which is constantly kept there. So that would lead to irritation in that area and change in the anatomy of the cells in the vagina. So that, of course, is nothing to worry about in case of use of cups, which is only for a period of say 4 to 5 days. Anything else, Gayatri?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. That has been very knowledgeable to talk about this with you.
Okay. Thank you
Thank you
so
for
much.
your time, ma'am.
Yeah,
So
thank you.
next, I would like to welcome Susanna and Lord from EcoFem. So EcoFem is an organization that is promoting sustainable menstrual products and alternative menstrual products like reusable pads that Shilpa ma'am just talked about. So can you just give a small introduction about yourself and what you're going to talk about today?
Sure. So, as you said, my name is Laure. I manage the communications and social media for EcoFam. EcoFam is a social enterprise based in the south of India. And so we are based in Oroville, which is an international township. And we make menstrual cloth pads and also cloth baby nappies. And along with that, we also sell menstrual cups and period products and a few educational items like crocheted uterus, crocheted vulva, etc., to allow menstrual educators and also sex educators to explain about menstruation, sex, etc. Shall I start the presentation? Shall I start the presentation? Yes, I can see it. Great. I think you can go straight to the next slide. Right. So yeah, as I said, we make washable cloth pads. As you can see here, we have different colors and different shapes and different absorbencies. And the cloth pads are made by women collectives, which are based around Oroville in rural areas. And so the idea is for them is to provide them a livelihood and financial independence, to empower these women. And so we, as I said, we mainly sell cloth pads along with a few other products. But the idea is that with the surplus, the profit that we make through our sales, we finance and sustain two non-for-profit programs. Mainly one actually, mainly one which gives menstrual health education and also access to free cloth pads to girls from low-income backgrounds. And actually, our second non-for-profit program is for women, and it's approximately the same project, except that we work with partners, and they purchase cloth pads at discounted rate from us, and they distribute them to women from low-income backgrounds, along with menstrual education. Like, we never give cloth pads just like that to women and girls. We always give them with menstrual education so that they can understand what are cloth pads, what it is all about, why it's important to use cloth pads and not single-use products, what are the chemicals inside, how to use them, etc. And we also tell them about female anatomy, about the menstrual cycle, how it works, like the 4 phases of the menstrual cycle, etc. So yeah, we give them some like proper menstrual education. So this is our team. Can you go back to the previous slide? This is our team on the left-hand side on the picture. So as I said, we are from Oroville, which is an international township. So we are different nationalities in the team. From France, Belgium, Australia, Netherlands, India, many parts of India. And we were founded in 2010 with the intention to revitalize menstrual practices, which are healthy, affordable, dignified, and environmentally sustainable. You can go to the next slide. So actually, let me tell you a little bit about the menstrual cycle, because the menstrual cycle is so much more than just a period. There's actually 4 phases, and menstruation is only one of them. And then there's also the ovulation. And so we go through 4 phases during our 28 up to 40-day cycle every month. So you can go to the next slide. So what is actually in a menstrual product? So I don't know if you know, but by law, companies are not obliged to disclose the ingredients of cloth pads and also of tampons. There's no law, there's no regulation, nothing. If you take a packet of pads or tampons, there's no composition mentioned on the packet. We can go to next. Yeah. Whereas there is in all those disposable pads, there's a lot of chemicals inside, like acetone, for instance, which is used to remove nail polish. There's also styrene, which is also used in tires. There's also derivatives of petroleum, chlorethane, which is also used in styrofoam. So it's very heavy chemicals which are present in our single-use pads, which are gonna come in contact with the vulva. And the vulva Do you know how many times more absorbent than the mouth the vulva is? Do you have any idea? You want to take a guess? You can say a random number. More what? Nerves. No, but now we're talking about the absorbency. Like the vulva is highly absorbent, and it's actually 18 times more absorbent than the mouth. So it's extremely absorbent, which means that anything that you put in contact with the vulva is gonna be highly absorbed inside the body, inside the bloodstream, etc. So that's why it's very important not to put any chemicals in there. Next slide. Exactly. So rashes happen also because, as it's written on this slide, single-use pads are made of up to 90% of plastic. And plastic doesn't breathe, whereas cotton does breathe. Our pads actually are made of organic cotton. Organic, first of all, because then the cotton has been made with no pesticides, so there's absolutely no chemicals which come in contact with your vulva. And second, they're made of cotton, and cotton, yes, as I said, and as we know, it does breathe, so no rashes are gonna come. And this is also the feedback that we get from our customers. And if we look at this slide, again, you can see that there's many chemicals in these plastic pads. Also silicone, as you can see, also bleach to keep the pad white. Also some super absorbent polymer gels, which can also cause like issues like to bloat. When you're flushing, also that's very much of a problem, because some people flush the single-use pads, and then when they go into the once they get flushed, they can clog the canalizations, the pipes. So that's also an issue. And most of all, yes, they're not biodegradable, all these plastic single-use pads. So we can go to the next slide. Okay, so yeah, as I said, one pad is made of up to 90% of plastic, which is huge. It's like only 10% is natural, and the rest is just plastic, which is equivalent of 4 plastic bags. So yeah, just like ingredients in the food that we eat, the ingredients in menstrual products also affect our health, as I just explained. Next slide. These harmful chemicals, which I've mentioned, they can actually create hormone disruption, they can create cancer, and can create also reproductive issues. Like if the hormonal system is disrupted, one of the consequences is infertility. Also, as we said, allergies and rashes can come, and also neurotoxins can affect the nervous system also. So there's a lot of disease that can be triggered by single-use pads. Next slide. So now, how can we dispose of menstrual products? Because all these menstrual single-use pads are going to end up either in nature or in the ocean, because they have nowhere to go, because they're made of plastic, and plastic does degrade, but it degrades into nanoplastics, and at the end of the day, they never leave the earth, but they just become as small as bacteria. And anything that we put in the soil, in the air, in the water, will end up coming back to us, because we are linked to our environment. We depend on our environment to drink, to eat, etc. So whatever we give to the environment is going to give it back to us. Also, a sick and polluted environment can't allow us to be healthy. So that's why it's very important to understand that we're not disconnected to the environment. We're actually dependent and also interdependent. Next slide. So here we see the amount of waste, menstrual waste, that we generate in 1 month, in 1 year, and in a lifetime if we use single-use pads. Next. And yeah, of course, plastic is not biodegradable. And as I said, it never really goes away. Here, as you can see, sanitary napkins take between 500 and 800 years to just disappear and disintegrate into the size of bacteria. Next. Yeah. So there's no way in the environment, but plus also single-use pads will end up in the streets or in bins, and then waste workers will have to pick them up and deal with them, and it's really not dignifying for them. Also, it could, I mean, it's just not hygienic, right, to handle the sanitary waste of someone else. So for that reason, going for cloth pads is also not maintaining this system. Next slide. So yeah, also many pads are ending up in landfills or are getting burned, and that releases a lot of toxins and chemicals in the air. Also on the soil, of course, because then there is ashes, and the ashes are toxic because they're made of plastic. Next. And yeah, flushing them, as I said, is an issue because they swell, they become big, they clog the canalizations, and that's what we see here. There's a man who has to go inside the canalizations to unclog them. And also, utterly, all these pads end up many of these pads can end up in the ocean, which get eaten by the fish, and we eat the fish. So, it's a vicious circle like that. Next, yeah. So here I'm going to do a little demonstration. I have here a cloth pad, which is open. So this is the top layer. It's made of organic fennel. It's very, very soft. And then right under, you have different layers of cloth, organic cloth, like this, to absorb the blood. And right under that, you have the last layer, which is a leak-proof layer. As you can see, it's a little shiny. That's because there is a very, very thin plastic layer to allow the pad to be leak-proof. So as you can see, it's really extra thin. It's just a lamination, actually. And that makes the full pad. Oh, the presentation disappeared. Can we get the presentation back? So our cloth pads have wings. They all have wings with buttons, metal buttons, that you can close like this. You can close like this. And then you can clip it around your underwear. Imagine my hand is the underwear, and you clip it like that. So there is no sticky thing inside here. There's just a button and wings. It's important to wear well-fitting underwear so that the pad doesn't move in your underwear. And so we have different sizes. So as you can see here, I don't know if I can use a pointer. Can you see you can't see my, you can see my mouse? The blue one? Okay, so as the blue one is panty liner, then the pink one is a regular pad, day pad, we call it. The purple one is Daypad Plus. It is slightly bigger and has one more layer of absorbance inside. And then the red one is a night pad. You can't see it here, but it's extra. Here it's a little bigger, a little wider, so that when you lay down, it absorbs a little more. And in the center, we have our carry pouch that you can take with you when you travel or when you go to work or to school, so that you can put one clean pad inside. And while you're at work in the middle of the day, you can just, remove the soiled pad, just fold it like this and put it in the carry pouch. Like that, the blood is sealed. You can put it in the carry pouch till the evening, and then when you come home, you can remove the pad that you're wearing plus the soiled pad, put them in a bucket of cold water, let them soak for a minimum of 20 minutes. So meanwhile, for instance, you can take a shower, and after that you can just hand wash them, and it's pretty fast because during this soaking phase, most of the blood goes out. So this is how to use a pad. You can go to the next slide. Yeah. So these are all the sizes which I showed you. So you see the last one, the night pad, is slightly bigger on the left-hand side. The numbers are the number of layers. So you see the night pad has 7 layers, Daypad Plus 6, Daypad 5, and the panty liner 3. And one has PUL, which is the plastic lamination leak-proof layer, and one has nothing, has no PUL. So the panty liner without PUL is 100% biodegradable, whereas the ones with all the others have a layer of PUL. And after so many years after you use it, you can just remove the layer with the PUL, and all the rest is compostable. So it's about 90% compostable, actually. Next. So our cloth pads are reusable for 3 to 5 years normally, which is equal to about 75 washes. And as you saw, there's up to 8 absorbent layers with a leak-proof, waterproof layer. And most of all, our pads have no harmful chemicals. Next. So I explained all this. I mean, the soaking and the washing I did explain. You can wash by hand or you can wash with the washing machine, but make sure that you don't use any scrubs or because that would damage the fabric. And if possible, dry in the sun, but it's not a must, but it's always a plus because the sun gives extra disinfection. But again, it's not a must. The most important is that your pad dries well. Otherwise, it's less. It could create problems. So it's very important that your pad is dry and that you store it in a dry and clean place until the next use. So cloth pads are better for health and for the environment. So they're safe because they have no chemicals. They're very soft because they're in flannel, at least ours, super breathable. And thanks to that, they don't create any rashes. Menstrual products affect us all. Next. So this is the link to our online shop if you want to visit it on ecofam.org. So we have an online shop with all those products. There's actually, if you're interested to buy any, today there's a discount of 15% on all our pads till midnight. That's because we offered this discount just for a menstrual health day because it was yesterday. Next. So yeah, that's it. If you want to contact us, these are our contact details. And we're always super happy to meet people and to get people over. So feel free to come and visit us in Orville if ever you are passing by. Great.
Required for a cycle.
So it depends on your flow actually, but it's good to have maybe between 5 and 7.
So 5 to 7 menstrual pads will last us 5 years, which seems like a very good thing,
No, it
not only for
lasts
the
between three
environment.
and 5 years. Up to 5 years it can last, yeah.
Yeah. Oh. And these are like biodegradable, 90% biodegradable.
Yeah, 90% of the pad is biodegradable. As I said, this is the pad, this is the leak-proof layer. Only the leak-proof layer after when the pad is gone, like it doesn't absorb well anymore, if it's too has become too hot, whatever, you remove this layer, and all this is degradable.
So, if have you like what are the measures that we need to take to ensure that it remains hygienic for such a long time of use?
So it's very easy. The main thing is that you have to dry your pad properly. It works just like underwear. All right, stained underwear is not unhygienic underwear. It's just stained underwear. So for pads, it's exactly the same. Your pad can be stained. It's not an issue at all in terms of hygiene. The most important thing is that you dry the pad well because there could be like some kind of mold or anything coming inside if the pad is not dried properly. So it's very important to dry the pad properly, either under a fan, near the window, in the sunlight. And also, it's very important to change your pad in time, but just like single use pads, which means between 4 and 6 hours, you change the pad, and that's it.
Soap or any other bleachers. So,
It's not what?
you said that it was not required to use a soap. In fact,
Soap.
yeah, like detergent to clean it.
No, no, I didn't say that. You have to use detergent. I said first you
Okay.
soak your pad in cold water for about 20 minutes minimum. After that, you hand wash your pad or you wash it in the washing machine. So there it requires detergent. We recommend to use natural detergent. That's why we also launched a natural soap on our online shop because again, the vulva is highly sensitive and absorbent, so it's better to put no chemicals at all in there, and that's why we recommend natural soap.
And this soap is also available in your website.
Exactly.
Okay, great. We will look forward. Like I will be personally buying your products soon.
Yeah. Okay, wonderful. Any other questions?
No, no. Thank you so much for your time and thank you everyone for joining us here. So we are concluding this webinar.
All right. Thank you so much for
Does
inviting me.
anybody else have anything else to say? So, two of our speakers were not able to join us because of connectivity issues, as they are development practitioners who are working in rural regions. So, I would like to apologize for them and thank you everyone for joining us here. So, like menstrual ending period property is very important step because without that we are not only like there is not only a problem of gender justice, we are also stopping economic progression and social development in some manner or another. And through this discussion we got to know a little bit more about gender friendly toilet, alternative menstrual products, and menstrual health and hygiene overall. So I would like to thank everyone here for joining us. Thank you so much, and I'm concluding this meeting.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.